Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Electra Daredevil Diver Yellow Old Gold. This watch is available from electrawatches.com for €699. Electra have a rich brand heritage. They were founded in France in 1966 and then in 1971 during the quartz crisis the brand died out. In 2024 the brand came back to life and Electra watches are now made in France by Pequenet. This piece, the Daredevil Diver, is a heritage reissue of the original Electra Skin Diver, which was made in the 1960s, made to modern day specifications. The watch is available in 5 colour options: dashing red, deep blue, yellow old gold, emerald green and formal black respectively. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a watch box which is housed inside this outer cardboard box, and as you can see on the lid to the outer box we have the Electra emblem and Electra text logo in gilt. So I'll remove the lid to the base, which is a snug fit, and inside we have the watch box itself, which sits inside a foam cutout panel, which is a snug fit. So it does a good job of protecting the watch box in shipping. So the watch box is finished to a very good standard with black vinyl or PU leather, nice satin grain finish to it, flawless stitching around the perimeter and excellent stitching around the perimeter of the strap, which is secured by a stainless steel popper. It's signed with the Electra emblem in gilt, so very aesthetically pleasing, and both halves open to reveal. The interior is fully upholstered with a contrasting light blue velour fabric to a good standard. Inside the base, the watch sits on a padded pillow cushion, which is also upholstered to a good standard with light blue velour fabric. So snug fit inside the base, does a good job protecting the watch in shipping, very aesthetically pleasing. Electra deserve credit here because they could have used the less expensive default option of a plastic or cardboard watch box, but this vinyl or PU leather coated watch box is a very aesthetically pleasing design, and immediately one gets the impression that the Electra Daredevil Diver is a high quality French made piece. With regards to items, one only gets one item, which is this plastic warranty card. On the reverse, it's filled in with the date of purchase, the serial number of the piece, and it details the terms and conditions of the 3-year international warranty. I want to give due credit to Electra here because often mid-tier micro brands only cover their watches with a 12-month or 2-year international warranty. To get 3 years of international warranty is exceptional at this price point of €699. So to clarify, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000 price points, and the industry standard for mid-tier pieces is 2 years of international warranty. 3 years really is exceptional, and that's the benefit of Electra watches being made by Pequenet in France. They're able to provide 3 years of international warranty. Now there's one item which is absent, and it's a disappointment. There is no owner's instruction manual with clear concise diagrams and instructions in English detailing the operation of the movement used, which is the Soprod caliber P024 automatic. I'd like to see Electra include either a printed booklet, alternatively a card with a QR code that could be scanned with an Android or iPhone, because that really needs to be included in the mid-tier between €500 and €5,000 price point. We're not looking at a low-tier piece made in China. One can be magnanimous about the absence of an owner's instruction manual for a low-tier piece, but at €699 it's mandatory for mid-tier brands to have an owner's instruction manual, either in the form of a booklet or a card with a QR code. So I'd like to see that included. With regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 38mm case diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 47mm, a thickness of 13mm and a lug width of 20mm. The black FKM floor rubber strap tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to the buckle and tang. Solid 316L grade stainless steel buckle and tang, signed to a good standard with high definition engraving of the Electra emblem. Nice heavy gauge to the steel. No sharp edges, no burrs, doesn't have sharp corners, and I like the heavy gauge to it. Beautiful lustre to the brush satin finishing. 2 keepers on the FKM floor rubber strap. The first one is fixed, the second one slides, and they're correctly proportioned. We have a boxed double dome sapphire crystal with AR coating on the underside, and the anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished handset, silver mirror polished applied indices, and also the gradient sunburst dial, which this one is the yellow old gold version. So it's lighter gold in the center and it's gradient, so it graduates to darker black at the circumference or chapter ring. Very aesthetically pleasing. So although the dial is sunburst rather than glossy enamel black or matte black, it is highly reflective and shiny, but the AR coating works very well. Also at 12 o'clock we've got an applied Electra emblem. Now subjectively, purist Electra collectors are going to be critical of this because it is a different design emblem to the original Electra emblem that was used in the 1960s on the Skin Diver, which this is a heritage reissue of. I like the new emblem. I think it is aesthetically pleasing, the circle with the arrow going through it, and you can see it's applied rather than just printed on the dial, so very well executed. I think the silver applied emblem at 12 complements the applied triangle indices at 12, 9, 6 and 3. There's another notable difference, and subjectively again purist Electra collectors will be critical of this. The dial is a different design to the original 1960s Skin Diver. So to clarify, the original Skin Diver had a date complication at 3 o'clock, and that therefore meant that there was no 3 o'clock triangle applied index, as you can see, with 12, 9, 6 and 3 as per this dial on the Daredevil Diver. I personally would prefer if they had retained the originality of the 1960 Skin Diver dial layout. So for example, a date complication at 3 and delete the triangle index at 3, but this is subjective. For the majority of collectors this isn't going to be detrimental. I do like the perfect symmetry of the dial 12, 9, 6 and 3 without the date complication, which is asymmetrical. The proportions of the triangles which are applied at 12, 9, 6 and 3 are correct, and they are very true to the original, so the dial does look the same. We've got the same stick indices at the other indexes or indices, and the triangles are the same proportions as the original Skin Diver from the 1960s. So the dial layout is the same. They've just changed the emblem, which is now applied in silver rather than a printed emblem above the Electra text logo. Handset is also very similar. There are some subtle differences. For example, if you look at the arrowhead minute hand, you can see there is no line across the triangle. The original Skin Diver from the 1960s had a line across the triangle. Electra have now deleted it. Now, I like the triangle arrowhead tip. I think the legibility is good, but again, purist Electra collectors would prefer it to be perfectly the same as the original. Proportion of the shorter pencil hour hand is the same. The other notable change, and purists will dislike this, is the second hand is now a syringe second hand with a rectangular Lume pip. The original Skin Diver from the 1960s had a circular Lume pip on the second hand, and which was very aesthetically pleasing. So I think they should have retained it. They should have kept the handset exactly the same as the original, and also the dial layout exactly the same, deleting this triangle at 3 o'clock and have a date complication, because this is powered by the Sopral Caliber P024 automatic, which is a date complication movement. They could have had a date window. So this version of the 5 colours is the yellow old gold. So it's a gradient dial. It's lighter yellow or gold in the centre, and then it graduates to black around the chapter ring or circumference of the dial. Sunburst dial, very aesthetically pleasing the way it changes colour from a dark yellow gold to a lighter yellow gold in the centre, and it does add interest to the dial. Although it's highly reflective due to being sunburst finish rather than matte finish, the AR coating on the underside of the box top hat crystal does a good job of reducing the glare, so when you look at it straight on, the clarity and the legibility is excellent. Quality of the printing to the white minute ticks on the chapter ring is sharp and crisp, which is good. Quality of the printing of the text on the dial is sharp and crisp. The font is fine, it's not too thick, it's not blurry. Electra has the same font as the original 1960s fonts used, and we simply have automatic 666 feet at the 6 o'clock position as per the original. I like that they haven't over-branded the dial with unnecessary text or specification, and also they've kept it original to the 1960s Skin Diver because it has the water resistance rating in feet versus the contemporary standard, which is 200 metres equals 660 feet. So you can see it has 666 feet, which is a rather odd number because now the industry standard is 660 feet, which is 200 metres. This is water resistant to 203 metres, which is 666 feet. So they've kept the original water resistance rating in feet rather than metres. With regards to the bezel, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, coin edge teeth, and we've got an undercut to the coin edge teeth, which is mirror polished to flawless standard, low profile to the coin edge bezel, and it does look visually very similar to the original 1960 Skin Diver bezel, so this will particularly appeal to purists. Mirror polishing is excellent on the coin edge teeth in the undercut, and the top edge of the coin edge bezel has a large chamfer which deletes the tips of the teeth, so it is grippy and tactile, correctly proportioned teeth, but also gives it a vintage aesthetic. Now, one detail that has been updated is the bezel insert. The original skin diver from the 1960s used an aluminium bezel insert, and in the 1960s and 1970s that was the industry standard. Aluminium bezel inserts, or alternatively Bakelite's bezel inserts. So this is a ceramic bezel insert, and it's fully lumed with BGW9 Super Lume Nova in the triangle and also the 12 Arabic numerals. However, I'm going to be critical of this, and subjectively purist Electra collectors will also be critical of this. I think they've made a mistake here. One could say they've missed an opportunity by not making the same bezel design as the original skin diver from the 1960s, which this is a heritage reissue of. The original skin diver used the conventional bezel, so a dive bezel with 60-minute ticks and Arabic numerals for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. That looked very aesthetically pleasing. It was an aluminium bezel insert in black, and of course the Arabic numerals and the minute ticks were silver, so very aesthetically pleasing. It gave the piece a real vintage aesthetic. They could have made it in ceramic with 60-minute ticks as per mill sub style bezel and Arabic numerals 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50 respectively. But for some reason Electra have decided to change the dive bezel on this piece, and they fitted a 12-hour bezel which can be used for a second time zone. So for example, you can set the hour hand to one of these 12 hours on the bezel. I think this is meant to be a dive piece. It's meant to be a heritage reissue of the skin diver from 1960s. A dive bezel would have been more appropriate rather than a 12-hour bezel. Subjectively, some collectors will like the updates. I personally think they should have kept it original. And of course, it would have improved the functionality. Having a dive bezel with 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50 minutes on the bezel with minute ticks would have been more useful for timing. But in terms of finishing, it's got a nice matte finish to the ceramic rather than a glossy finish, so it does look similar to an anodised aluminium bezel insert as per the original. They've done a good job of engraving the hours. The Arabic numerals are sharp and crisp. The font isn't too thick, it's not blurry, the engraving is sharp, and they've done a very good job of inlaying the engraved Arabic numerals in the ceramic with BGW9 Super Lume Nova. The triangle is also correctly proportioned as an alternative to a Lume pip. The original aluminium bezel insert had a Lume pip which was lumed with tritium, and of course tritium is now discontinued due to it being radioactive. It was succeeded by Lume Nova and then succeeded by Super Lume Nova. But this does look good. White in daylight, the white on the BGW9 inlay matches the white BGW9 in the applied indices and also the handset. So the indices, the handset and also the bezel do not look cream or white. They are a perfect colour tone match. White on the bezel, white on the dial, white on the handset. Proportions are good. I just think it would have been better with a dive bezel. Now, the thing that might surprise you is it's a bidirectional friction bezel. This will appeal to purist Electra collectors because originally the skin diver in the 1960s had a bidirectional friction bezel. It predated the use of 60-click unidirectional bezels, which became the industry standard in the 1980s, and then from the 1990s onwards 60-click unidirectional bezels were succeeded by 120-click bezels, which are now the industry standard. But in the 1960s, bidirectional friction bezels were the industry standard. They predated the use of unidirectional bezels. So this rotates clockwise and anti-clockwise, rather like a GMT bezel, and it's friction based. It doesn't click. It feels smooth all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation. It does feel heavy, so this is good because, for example, with Vostok Amphibia pieces, which were also made from 1967 onwards, they also used a bidirectional friction bezel rather than a clicking bezel, and it's done with an octagonal copper wire which sits in a groove around the outside of the boxed top hat's double dome sapphire crystal, and the octagonal wire, which is usually made from copper, sometimes they're made from stainless steel, that engages in a groove inside the bezel, and the octagonal bezel, the octagonal bezel spring, the flats on it engage with the grooves, the groove inside the stainless steel bezel and the groove around the head of the piece, the case. And that provides friction, and you get this friction feeling. Now, it's good because this does have heavy friction. You can feel the bezel wire having enough friction against the inside of the groove inside the underside of the stainless steel bezel. So it doesn't feel too loose. Now the benefit is when you rub against the coin edge teeth, it's not going to accidentally knock out of position, which is good. Sometimes bidirectional friction bezels are too loose, and of course with vintage pieces from the 1960s and 1970s, they do get looser with daily wear and tear, and the octagonal bezel the octagonal wire in the bezel becomes looser and worn, and therefore there's more play in it. But this one feels nice and tight. You've got to get a good grip of it with your index finger and thumb on the coin edge teeth and really give it a good hard turn with a lot of torsion, so it's not going to accidentally move out of position. No lateral side-to-side play whatsoever, feels nice and tight. Of course, we don't need to check for back play because it's bi-directional rather than unidirectional clicking bezel. Feels very smooth. I like the smoothness of it, and I like the very firm resistance of it, that it's not going to easily knock out of position. So it feels exactly the same, both clockwise and anti-clockwise. You've got to give it a good turn, but it feels very smooth. The refinement is there. To put this into perspective, it does feel smoother than other bidirectional friction bezels on dive pieces I've experienced, such as Vostok Amphibias, and I like it. I like the heavy feeling of it. It does really feel just like the original Electra skin diver from the 1960s. They've perfected it, so they deserve full credit, and this is the benefit of this piece being made by Pequenet. So to clarify, Pequenet are making mid-tier pieces such as the Concorde, which I previously reviewed, which is a €4,000 price point piece in the mid-tier. This piece is €699, but you're getting the same build quality, quality control, materials and finishing as a Pequenet Concorde, for example, which is a €4,000 price point piece. So that's the benefit. They're made by Pequenet. And you can really feel the refinement and the quality control because it does feel good. No lateral side-to-side play, even all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation, and we don't need to check for back play. It's an excellent bidirectional friction bezel. Purists will really appreciate it's the same as the bidirectional friction bezel used in the 1960s on the skin diver. This is one area I think they've missed an opportunity, or subjectively one could be critical and say they've made a mistake. They could have updated it to the contemporary industry standard, which is 120 click unidirectional bezel. It would have looked the same as the original skin diver coin edge bezel, but it would have the benefit of 120 clicks. It's subjective. Some collectors like the originality of a bidirectional friction bezel. Some collectors will prefer the contemporary standard of a 120 click unidirectional bezel. But there we are. Let's look at the crown in detail. Solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished, nice large chamfer which deletes the sharp tips to the coin edge teeth, correctly proportioned. Mirror polished cap to it, and as you can see it's engraved with high definition engraving with the Electra emblem, so it's good. Proportion is good. Visually it looks very similar to the original skin diver crown used in the 1960s, so it's large enough to be grippy and tactile. You can get good purchase with your index finger and thumb. Silky smooth, minimal number of turns required to unscrew it. It's sublime screw down crown execution. Now the negative of this is it uses the Soprod caliber P024 automatic, which is Swiss made. That is a date complication movement, and unfortunately, therefore we have a phantom date setting position. So when you pull it out to the first click position, it's the date complication, but you can see there is no date window and we don't have a date complication. The date wheel is still present beneath the dial, and therefore one can feel the date clicking over when you are in the first click position. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement. We're now in the time setting position. So the Soprod caliber P024 automatic is a clone of the ETA 2824-2, like the SW200-1 is a clone of it. There's no discernible difference in terms of how it feels to manually wind, set the time and hack the movements. It feels exactly the same as the ETA 2824-2 and the SW200-1 respectively. When you fully unscrew it in the first position, it's in the manual wind position, so I'm just going to test manually winding it to its maximum 38-hour power reserve. Feels smooth, doesn't feel rough or gritty to manually wind. In terms of how it feels, there's no discernible difference between this and the ETA 2824-2, which is a clone of, and the SW200-1. They feel exactly the same, all three movements, P024, ETA 2824-2 and SW200-1 respectively. The architecture of all three movements is the same. The only difference is the SW200-1 has an additional jewel added. It has 26. But in terms of manual winding, it feels smooth. Feels smoother than a PT5000, and I think that it feels exactly as smooth as an ETA 2824-2 or an SW200-1. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up to its maximum 38 hours. So time setting feels good, feels smooth both clockwise and anti-clockwise. Minimal friction to it, and there's also minimal back play when you look at the arrowhead minute hand, you can see there's an almost immediate response when I rotate the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise. One doesn't need to take up a lot of slack, so there is some play in the gearing, but it is necessary. There's a mechanical reason for the play. If it did not have some play in the gearing of the movement, when you push back in the crown, it would cause the minute hand to jump out of position. So one needs to have some back play or some slack in the gearing, and that play or back play allows the minute hand to remain static. So when you push back in the crown, it doesn't jump out of position when the gearing moves. So it's good. Feels refined, feels tight, doesn't have a lot of friction, feels smooth to manually wind, set the time, and the hacking works well. The negative is the phantom date sitting position. Let's test screwing the crown back down. Instant thread pickup. There's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. So quality control, build quality, tolerances and machining are excellent. Silky smooth, screw down crown, sublime execution, and I like the proportions of it. The coin edge teeth on the crown match the coin edge teeth on the bezel. Rather than using a knurled crown or gear tooth profile crown, they've made the correct decision. Coin edge bezel should have a matching coin edge crown. Let's look at the FKM floor rubber strap in detail. So it's smooth on the top side, textured on the underside. Nice matte finish to it. The negative is, as per silicone rubber straps and FKM floor rubber straps, they do have a tendency to pick up lint. So they do attract lint and dust, you can see. But nice matte finish to it. I like the sheen of it. And it's tapered, so thicker at the spring bar end where it needs to be reinforced, and around the spring bars, which is an area that silicone rubber straps have a tendency to split and crack. So it's good. Tapers, it's thicker at the spring bar end and then gradually tapers down in thickness down to the buckle and tang. There are enough holes in it for a 6-inch wrist size up to maximum 8-inch wrist size, plenty of adjustment. Very soft and supple. It actually surprises me because it feels just like a silicone rubber strap. That's how soft and supple it is. It's not going to require any breaking in to become comfortable. FKM floor rubber straps really are a compromise in terms of comfort and durability between nitrile butadiene or NBR straps, nitrile butadiene rubber, which are harder but they're the most durable and robust, rather like natural rubber, and silicone rubber, which are very soft and supple, but they are not as durable. So the benefits of silicone rubber straps are they're very soft and comfortable. The negative is they are not as durable. NBR or nitrile butadiene rubber are harder and very durable and robust. Nitrile butadiene rubber is often used in the automotive and aeronautical industries because it is chemical resistant, UV resistant and acid resistant, and of course very suitable for watch straps due to its durability and UV resistance, but the negative is it's very stiff. So FKM floor rubber really sits between the two, between nitrile butadiene rubber and silicone rubber respectively. It's softer and more supple than nitrile butadiene, but harder and more durable and robust than silicone rubber. So I like it. I think FKM floor rubber is the perfect compromise between nitrile butadiene and silicone. Very soft and supple, but robust. I'll show you the underside. One detail I really like, and it's good design, is the first keeper, which is fixed. Either side of the strap, on the flanks, we have these two teeth. And the two pairs of teeth, the keeper engages in between them. And it works very well because you can lock the first keeper in between the teeth on the left and the right hand flanks. The benefit is it doesn't accidentally move out of position, so you don't have to keep readjusting the first keeper. It constantly stays in the first fixed position between the two teeth on the flanks. Second keeper does slide up and down freely, and that means regardless of how you size it to fit a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist, the first keeper will always stay in position near the buckle and tang where it should be, and you can adjust the second keeper freely. It's good design, I like it. So the underside is textured. Now the benefit of the texture is the grooves in it allow for air circulation. The other benefit is it allows for sweat and perspiration to wick away from the wrist. So for example, sweat and perspiration can travel down the grooves and out through the holes, as you can see. So two benefits: air circulation, but also allows for sweat and perspiration to wick away from the wrist. And also if you wear it for seawater diving, it allows the strap to dry out quickly because the water can come out through the grooves and also through the holes in the strap, so it does dry out well. So this textured underside is good design. Feels smooth and comfortable despite being textured. It feels very comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. Also correct decision here because we've got quick release stainless steel spring bars, which is good. In the absence of pierced lugs or holes in the flanks, it's easy to remove the strap. One doesn't need a spring bar tool as per standard spring bars if one wants to exchange the strap for an alternative. So it's good to see stainless steel quick release spring bars used. I like it. It's a very good quality FKM floor rubber strap. So let's look at the case back in detail. Solid 316L grade stainless steel case back. It's forged. So what that means is it's hydraulically pressed. The forming of the embossing is not done with engraving. Now I like forged case backs because they are very smooth and comfortable. So to clarify, when you have deep embossing like this with a 3D effect, if it's done with engraving, the embossing and the engraving can feel sharp, it can feel rough against the wrist, so it feels scratchy. But some brands, and I'll use Yema as an example, Yema with the Superman, they use a hydraulic press to forge the case, and they form the emblem with hydraulic pressing. And the benefits of using a die, which is made from hardened steel, tool steel, is that when it presses stainless steel, you get this perfectly crisp embossing. And Electra are doing the same thing. Well, it's actually Pequenet that are making the watch in France. They are hydraulically pressing the case back, and as you can see, it's forged. And the forging is perfectly smooth. It's 3D effect, as per an engraved case back, but you can see, although it has depth to the engraving and embossing, it's perfectly smooth. No sharp edges to it whatsoever, and that is the benefit of a forged case back versus an engraved case back. For example, the Steinhardt Ocean 139 has an engraved Sidon, which was the Greek god of the sea, and a seahorse. But the problem with the engraving, although it's high definition and crisp on the Ocean 139, it's sharp, it feels rough, because it's engraved versus hydraulically pressed. It's not forged. Forged case backs are better. They're used by Yema on the Superman and of course on this Electra Daredevil diver. Has the Electra emblem and Electra text logo, and this piece is numbered, so it's number 075, number 75. Each Daredevil diver has a unique serial number. They're all numbered pieces. Now, it's not a limited edition. It's not a limited batch of 500 pieces, for example. This isn't 75 or 500, but it's good that they have unique serial numbers. Around the circumference is engraved with high definition engraving with a specification of the piece. So, the centre portion, which is flat, is concentric CNC lathe tool machined. The absolute centre is forged, so it's matte bead-blasted effect, which is hydraulically pressed, and then we have the embossed silver emblem. Very nice definition finishing to it. Circumference is mirror polished to flawless standard. The mill slots are deburred and chamfered very well. Now, you can see it is a bubble back case back, which does add some thickness to the piece. But it is 666 feet or 203 metres water resistant, so it is necessary to have that thickness, and also it does need to provide adequate clearance around the rotor of the Soprod caliber P024 automatic. Caseback is bubble back, it is thick, but however this piece is still only 13mm thick, even though it has a boxed top hat double dome sapphire crystal which adds 2mm of thickness to the piece. So surprisingly thin at 13mm, even though it has a deep bubble back case back and a boxed top hat crystal. Case back is finished to perfection. Aesthetically pleasing, but importantly it's very smooth and comfortable. So I like it. Right, so I'll give you wrist shots and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, a pleasant surprise is this strap is long enough for my 8-inch wrist. Often when I review pieces, such as 38mm pieces, the straps are a fraction too short, but you can see I can engage the end of the strap in both of the keepers, both the first fixed keeper and the second sliding keeper. So this will fit from a minimum 6-inch wrist size up to a maximum 8-inch wrist size. Plenty of length. So for the majority of collectors with a 6 to 7-inch wrist, this will fit very well. And if you want to wear it around a wetsuit and you have a 6 to 7-inch wrist, there is enough length on it. So it is the correct length of FKM floor rubber strap for the majority of collectors. So 38mm case diameter will appeal to purist Electra collectors because that was the original proportion of the original skin diver from the 1960s. So they've got the proportions of this piece bang on. Often with brands that relaunch or start again in 2024, it's difficult to get the balance right between the original contemporary proportions and modern day because dive pieces from the 1960s were smaller. For example, 36mm, 37mm, 38mm respectively was the industry standard. But of course, now in 2025, the industry standard is 39, 40, 41, for example. 36, 37 and 38 would be considered small for a dive piece. This is a heritage reissue of the Electra skin diver from the 1960s. 38 was the original size, so this is very similar to it. It's compact, so 47mm lug to lug is excellent for a 38mm header of the piece. You'll know from my previous reviews, 48 is the perfect sweet spot regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. This is 1mm below the perfect 48mm sweet spot, but you can see even on my large 8 inch wrist, the 47 compact lug to lug gives a sublime fit. Lovely curved undercut to the flanks, as you can see. This wraps around the wrist very well. It's got a very good fit. It's rather like the curvature of a tonneau case, and it really does capture the essence of the skin diver from the 1960s with that curved profile to the case. It's got that tonneau style case shape, the curvature of the top of the lugs, the curvature of the undercuts to the flanks. The other thing I like is the large mirror polished bevel, which marks the transition between the top of the lugs in brushed satin finish and the flanks, which are brushed satin finished. It visually makes it look thinner than it is. The lugs look very slender, nice milled cutout for the FKM floor rubber strap. And visually, this does look like a skin diver from the 1960s. So they've got the proportions bang on. 20mm is the correct lug width. 90 grams is perfect for a 38mm piece on an FKM floor rubber strap. I would expect a 39 or 40 to be circa 100 grams. 90 grams for a 38 is perfect. Feels balanced. Doesn't feel top heavy like a slab of thick 3160L grade stainless steel sitting on top of the wrist. Really wraps around the wrist. Minimal gap beneath the tips of the lugs, nice curved profile, and I like the curvature of the undercuts. So the fit of this piece is fantastic. Feel good factor is good, comfort level is good. Feels very well balanced on the 20mm FKM floor rubber strap, and I like the proportions of the thick buckle. It's got a nice heavy gauge to it. Doesn't look undersized as per a daily wear or dress piece. It's got a nice heavy buckle on it, as you can see. So it really does capture the essence of a 1960s skin diver. I think they've done a good job of the proportions. I like the low profile of the coin edge bezel, and also the 2mm thick box top hat profile to the double dome sapphire crystal. Visually it does look very similar to an acrylic crystal. The original skin diver from the 1960s used acrylic, and of course that's had the characteristic distortion and magnification effect due to the thickness of acrylic crystal used, but this has the benefit of modern day specification enhancement. Sapphire crystal, of course, is harder and more scratch resistant than acrylic, hesselite and plexiglass, which were used in the 1960s. So visually it does have the aesthetic of a domed acrylic crystal, but of course sapphire crystal is harder, and the AR coating also improves the legibility and the clarity, so it's excellent. Very aesthetically pleasing yellow old gold dial because it's gradients and it's sunburst, so it changes from a light yellow gold in the centre to a darker yellow gold around the circumference. I like the way it catches the light. Feel good factor is good, comfort level is good, proportions are good, and I like the lack of heft at 90 grams. This FKM floor rubber strap is incredibly comfortable. I would describe it as comfortable as a silicone rubber strap, but as I've detailed, it's more durable and robust. FKM floor rubber is harder and more robust than silicone rubber, and yet it's still softer than nitrile butadiene rubber. So correct choice of strap material rather than silicone rubber as a cost-cutting measure. Right, so let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So this uses BGW9 Super Lume Nova on the ceramic bezel insert, the applied indices and the handset. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers on the fully lumed ceramic bezel insert, 5 to 6 layers on the applied indices, 5 to 6 layers on the handset. Handset is correctly proportioned as per the original skin diver from the 1960s. You can clearly see perfect colour tone match. The exciter is potent, but the colour tone match is also correct. So in daylight, as I detailed, white tone of the BGW9 in daylight on the bezel, the dial and the hands, which is how it should be. It didn't look more cream or whiter on the dial and hands. In the dark, you can see there's a perfect blue colour tone match between the bezel, the dial and the hands. The benefit of deleting the date complication at 3 as per the original skin diver is the dial now has perfect symmetry. The 12, 9, 6 and 3 applied indices, which have Arabic numerals, are perfectly legible. So I'm just going to charge this up again because I want the camera to autofocus on it and just look at the potency of the exciter as it fades exponentially with time. So as you can see, stellar performance. This is the benefit of Electra watches being made by Pequenet. Pequenet are making €4,000 price point pieces such as the Concorde, which I previously reviewed. And although this piece is significantly less expensive than Pequenet pieces, Electra watches are at a lower price point in the mid-tier. One is still getting better performance. So we're not seeing cost-cutting measures to the production cost. For example, 2 to 3 layers of application on the dial and 3 to 4 layers on the handset. We are looking at 5 to 6 layers on the bezel, 5 to 6 layers on the dial, 5 to 6 layers on the handset. 5 to 6 is the industry standard for good reason, because it gives optimum performance for the potency of the exciter. The Lume glows brightly and it will continue to glow for a good length of time. So as you can see, symmetry is good, legibility is good, and one can immediately read the time because you can see the difference in the proportions. The arrowhead minute hand is significantly larger than the shorter pencil hour hand. So legibility is good, functionality is good, and the triangle on the bezel is clearly legible. So it's excellent performance. So subjectively, the only criticism I have of it is it's a shame it didn't use a dive bezel as per the original with 60-minute ticks like a Rolex Milsub style bezel, and the Arabic numerals 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. I think if this had a 120 click unidirectional bezel and a Milsub style bezel with minute ticks and Arabic numerals, it would look better and it would look more similar to the original skin diver from the 1960s. This 12-hour bezel, yes, it is useful for a second time zone. You can line up the hour hand with a second hour. That's good if you want to use it like a GMT watch, but really I think for a dive piece and a heritage reissue of a skin diver, it should have a dive bezel, not this 12-hour bezel. Right, so let's discuss the movement use because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So this uses the Sopwith caliber P024 automatic, which is Swiss made. The P024, as I've detailed, is a clone of the ETA 2824-2. The architecture is identical, has the same 25 joules. It runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. Has hand winding and hacking, which use for complications. The negative is it has a date complication and therefore a phantom date setting position. I think they should have used the date complication, and that would have made the phantom date setting position useful rather than being not useful. And of course we don't have a date complication at 3 as per the original skin diver, but that's the negative, phantom date setting position. Hand winding and hacking works well, time setting works well. Stated accuracy of the P024 is -12 to +30 seconds per day, so the same as the standard grade of ETA 2824-2, the same as the standard grade of the Sellita SW200-1 respectively. This one has been very well regulated by Pécunet, and they're clearly regulating the P024 calibers they're using in 5 positions because it's running consistently at +5 seconds per day when it's fully manually wound to its maximum 38-hour power reserve. So, to clarify, stated accuracy is -12 to +30, but this is regulated in 5 positions to chronometer grade accuracy. Chronometer grade is -4 to +6, so at +5 it is within -4 to +6. Excellent accuracy. In terms of build quality, quality controls, materials and finishing, I regard the P024 as equal in quality to the standard grade of ETA 2824-2 and the standard grade of SW200-1. Reliability is the same, build quality is the same, accuracy is the same. So there's no discernible difference. The architecture of all 3 movements is the same. The only difference is the SW200-1 has an additional jewel added, but the actual architecture of the movements are identical. The ETA 2824-2, the P024 and also the SW200-1, they are the same. Smoothness of manual winding is equal. It does feel smoother than a PT5000 and I like it. I think it's a credible alternative to an SW200-1. The benefit of using a Soprod caliber rather than Sellita for Electra, which are made by Pécunet in France, is they're less expensive. Now bear in mind, Electra are micro brand and therefore they don't have the buying power at present to purchase large batches to meet the MOQ or minimum order quantity, for example purchasing 1,000 pieces of SW200-1 from Sellita. Sellita have a high MOQ, a high minimum order quantity. And the problem for micro brands like Electra is it's difficult to have that capital tied up by placing an order of 1,000 SW200-1s. That is a lot of capital tied up in stock, in parts. Soprod have a lower MOQ. So for example, Electra can order a batch of 500 P024s at a lower wholesale price per piece. So the P024 has a lower price point per piece. The wholesale price is lower than the SW200-1, but also it can be purchased with a lower MOQ, 500 pieces versus 1,000 as per Sellita. And that's the reason why microbrands like Electra are choosing to use the Soprod caliber P024 versus the Sellita SW200-1, which is used by larger brands. No negatives to it whatsoever. Reliability is well proven. It's been in service since 2020, so at this stage in 2025 it has 5 years of service. No reliability issues reported whatsoever. It's excellent. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? So when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So firstly, to evaluate this piece, excellent quality and excellent value, one has to look at the case finishing. Now, this is the benefit of it being made in France by Pequenet. We're not looking at a Chinese-made watch. This is made in France. The case finishing on this piece is the same quality case finishing as on Pequenet pieces such as the Concorde, which I previously reviewed, which is a €4,000 price point piece. When I look at microbands and mid-tier pieces between €500 and €5,000, the first area of the case I look at is in between the lugs, because mid-tier microbands often use in between the lugs as the production cost cutting measure. What they do is they just mill the interior of the lugs, but they do not brush satin finish or mirror polish it to the same standard as the tops of the lugs, the flanks and the case back, because these are areas that are visible to the collector. In between the lugs is not so visible, especially if a bracelet is fitted, because the end links hide the poor finishing. But looking closely in between the lugs, you can see it has vertical brush satin finishing on the 6 and the 12 o'clock side. Quality of the vertical brush satin finishing is stellar. It's the same level of finishing to the head of the piece as on a Pequenet Concorde, which is €4,000. That is the benefit of this piece being made by Pequenet in France. Also, the mirror polishing to the bevels on the transitions of the case, which mark the transition between the top of the lugs and the flanks, which are brush satin finish. They are crisp and sharp, but they've been deburred and chamfered. The mirror polishing is flawless. Brush satin finishing to the top of the case has a beautiful lustre. Flanks also have a beautiful lustre, and also the undercuts are deburred and chamfered very well. No sharp edges, no sharp corners to the tips. So the head of the piece makes the quality of this piece higher. So what we're looking at here is a mid-tier piece, but the head of the piece, the case is finished to high tier level finishing as per Pequenet at the €4,000 price point. So I'm going to declare it's excellent quality, but I'm going to declare the value as okay. The reason why I don't say it's excellent value or good value at €699 is this faces stiff competition from other microbands in the mid-tier between €500 and €5,000. For this to be good or excellent value, it would need to have a beads of rice bracelet or an oyster style bracelet. The FKM floor rubber strap is a production cost cutting measure. Now, one has to appreciate this piece is made in France by Pequenet. It's not made in China. Production costs in France are significantly higher than in China. So in order to make this viable to retail with a Swiss caliber, the Soprod caliber P024 automatic, and in order to produce it in France, it needs to have a higher retail price point for there to be enough profit margin versus the wholesale price to the retail. But $699 is expensive. I appreciate the specification is strong because we've got BGW9 AR coating, sapphire crystal and a Swiss caliber and 200 meters or 203 meters of water resistance. The FKM floor rubber strap is excellent. It just needs a bracelet to justify the €699 price point. But I would say with a lower price point, it would be excellent quality and excellent value. Or alternatively, if it had a bracelet, either a beads of rice bracelet or alternatively an oyster style bracelet, that would improve the value from okay to good or okay to excellent. As it stands, I'm going to declare it excellent quality and I'm going to declare the value as okay at €699. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Electra Daredevil Diver Yellow Old Gold. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.